Yo, okay, guys. So, everyone's about to be a millionaire, especially if you live in the United States, you're about to be a millionaire. And I'm going to show you why. So, let's go over here to my trading deal, and I'm going to show you what's going on. So, if you guys haven't heard on the news or noticed, a barrel of oil is, what, $98 right now? And let me zoom out here. Let's go to the 6 month or the year. So this is a yearly chart. If we go back about a year ago, a barrel of oil was around $65 a barrel. That was about a year ago. And if you go back to like the 5 year, you see in here it says May of 2022, a barrel of oil spiked to $120 a barrel in 2022. Now, the only reason why I think that happened was because in 2022 was the start of the Russia-Ukraine war, and that's what spiked oil to $120 a barrel. And you could see right after it sold off, as the war escalated, it kind of sold off, stabilized around $70 a barrel, spiked back up to 90, and it just kind of slowly fizzled down. Now, if you look, the spike here is a lot different than the spike here. This right here is the first leg. Let me go back to the 1 month. If we look back a month ago, oil spiked to $115 a barrel. And the reason why is because this is March 8th, because back at the end of February, starting March, we had the war in Iran, which caused the spike of gas. And instantly you could see after it spiked, people shorted it and pushed the price all the way down to, what, $85 a barrel. Now, if you guys go back a month ago, you could buy a gallon of gas for uh, what, 285 for a gallon of gas. Now we're almost $4 for a gallon of gas where I am. Now, what I think is going to happen, actually, that's just oil. Let's look at the US dollar index. This is where it gets a little interesting. So you can see the dollar is actually up a little bit right now. It's getting a little stronger since last year, April of last year. The dollar's been getting a little stronger. But if we go back on, yeah, you can see it's a little stronger right here. So if we go back on, like, let's say the 5 year, no wait, all time. Here it is, all time. Now, if you look back right here where the price of the dollar spiked was 1985. Ain't that crazy? Dollar spiked in 1985 and then crashed through the 80s. Same thing right here, spiked in 2001. What happened during '01? Well, that was the start of the war. And then during the war, it crashed. And then it spiked again in 2015, 2016, and it's just pretty much been steady right there. So we got like, oh, the dollar's getting stronger. Well, no, the dollar's not been getting stronger. In fact, I think this crash right here in the dollar, I think they were selling off. They were selling off a lot of securities and selling off a lot of assets to help fund the war. And they blamed, like, the '08 crisis. They blamed on people uh, buying houses they can't afford. And I get it. A lot of people lost a lot of jobs in '08 and stuff, but I think the '08 crisis was just a shock that came after the war. The war was $3 trillion initially. We ended up over 15 years spending $10 trillion on the war in the Middle East. You know, and you could look back and see what oil did back then. Like let's look at oil. See, if we go back to the '70s, the price of oil spiked from 11, $12 to the end of the '70s to almost $40. So it like 3x'd, Price of oil didn't just double, it like quadrupled, tripled, and quadrupled in price. And then after what, 1980 to 1985, it dumped, probably because there was some agreement and the war ended or something. I don't know, but it tripled. The price of oil tripled. You know, tripled, and that lasted for 1980 to 1985. That lasted 5 years. High gas prices for 5 years straight. Same thing. If you look back at 2001, where here it is. Look back at 2001. You know, when the Middle East conflict started was in 2001. Look what happened to the price of oil. Went from $25 a barrel to $50 a barrel from 2001 to 2006. That's 5 years. Spiked from $20 a barrel to $70 a barrel. Heck, by 2008, the Great Depression recession thing of '08, we were at $124 a barrel by '08. And then it dumped. And then what happened in '08? The housing crisis and this and that, and people losing their jobs, and the stock market collapsed, you know? It's the same. What do they say? History might not always repeat, but it rhymes. You know, it's the same story, different day. Same crap, different day. So people are like, "Oh, what is smart money doing right now? Oh, they're shorting oil." I don't think smart money is shorting oil. In fact, this spike in such a quick period of time, I think they're getting into oil now because I think oil is going to $200 a barrel. And you're like, "What? That's crazy." It's not crazy. Look, back in '08, during the housing market thing of '08, went to $140 a barrel. That was what, 15 years ago, and we're only at $100 a barrel, bro. I think we're going to $200 a barrel, and I'm going to show you why. This is why. Hold on, let me pull up my little news chart here. This is why we're going to $200 a barrel. So currently, you see that gold had a little sell off. That's no big deal, you know. It's actually a great time to get into gold. I started buying some gold around these prices. Now, if you guys watch the Fed meeting, what was it, Wednesday, two or 3 days ago? Uh, we pretty much expected what they were going to do. Pretty much, they were going to keep things going exactly the way they've been going the past year. Nothing's going to change with the Fed. They can't pump rates because that creates inflation. They can't lower rates because that creates inflation. So they're stuck between a rock and a hard place. There's absolutely nothing they can do at this point. They could just keep doing the same thing they've been doing and hope things get better and hope the war de-escalates. There's nothing the Fed can do at this point. So if we look back at history, I got this. I used the AI a little bit. It says in 1971, President Richard Nixon ended the gold standard by suspending the dollar's convertibility into gold, a move known as the Nixon shock. This abandoned the Bretton Woods system, moving the U.S. to a fiat currency system and allowing the dollar to float freely against other currencies, resulting in significant inflation and a devalued dollar through the 1970s. Well, we can see that by looking at a chart, by looking at history. We can see that is exactly what happened when they took us off the dollar. So the problem we're in now, they can't raise rates, they can't lower rates. Honestly, they should be raising rates to try and lower inflation, but they can't because that actually will create more inflation, you know? And they can't lower rates because you can't just give people free money because spending money, stimulating the economy, is what creates inflation too. The whole market works off supply and demand. Anyone that tells you otherwise is not paying attention. So really, nobody knows what's going to happen. But we can look at history, and history rhymes. So gold, it says August 15th, 1971, Nixon announced the U.S., and I wasn't even born, but I study this stuff. Nixon announced the U.S. would no longer convert dollars held by foreign governments into gold at a fixed price of $35 an ounce, effectively ending the international gold standard. You got the Nixon shock. Guess what, guys? Tariffs, imports. Sound familiar? Tariffs. We're going to make the Americans pay. Make them Americans pay for it. This was part of the broader economic policy, including a 90-day wage price freeze and 10% tariff on imports. Sound familiar, guys? Intended to address the falling value of the dollar. Well, the dollar's a little stronger right now, but if you look at history, it's actually pathetic. The dollar is pathetically weak. You don't believe me? Go to the store and buy a can of beans. You can't buy anything for a dollar. You go to Taco Bell, there is no dollar anymore. The dollar is worthless. It's a dead Ponzi based fiat currency. It's a debt based system. It's worthless, you know? You can't even go to Taco Bell and get a burrito for a dollar. What tell me guys, what can you buy for a dollar? You cannot buy a bottle of water at a gas station for a dollar. It will get you nothing. The dollar is worthless. So, I'm just going on, sorry. Um, so you guys can read this and study if you're interested a little bit. If we go to the news today, this was 14 hours ago. Iran war escalates. The energy prices spike after Israeli strike on South Par's gas field. So Israel, I probably can't say this, but they're retaliating strikes on Qatar and Saudi oil fields from Iran. Their retaliation is to do the exact same thing Iran did and strike more gas and oil fields, liquid gas, um, oil refineries. And this is a big problem. They think smart money is going to be shorting oil in a time where we have high gas prices and strikes on oil refineries and and shipping lanes cut off. Are you guys aware that it took 5, 10, it took 15 and 20 years to build the infrastructure to create these oil refineries. It took decades to create agreements. Look, I could show you right here what happened in the price of oil in the 70s. I wasn't around, but apparently people were like waiting in line at the gas station to fill up on gas, and then they said, "Oh, we got to make emissions and energy efficient cars because people are spending too much money on gas, or people are buying too much gas, and cars are burning too much gas, and it's smog and terrible for the environment." They're lying to you. They don't want you buying all this gas because it hurts the investors. When the price of oil spikes, people were like, "Oh, I don't care. I'm spending another $20, $30 a week on gas." Well, no, you're wrong. You're spending another $20, $30 a week on everything because it takes gasoline to drive diesel trucks. The price of diesel's what, $5, $6 a gallon now? Takes diesel to run these ships, to ship your cheap Chinese crap, your stupid iPhone, the junk you buy, all your clothes, uh, air travel, all the airlines. It costs money, gasoline, to sell Americans more worthless crap. So this affects everyone, you know. The price of things are going to increase as the price of gas increases. Look back at 2000. When gasoline went from $1.04 a gallon to $2 a gallon, so did the price of your house. So did the price of your shoes. So did the price of your clothes. So did your 79-cent burrito at Taco Bell's now $2. So did everything went up because oil went up. And so it would be dumb to be shorting oil right now. And let's say history rhymes. It says oil prices in the 1970s experienced unprecedented surge. I already showed you the chart. Oil tripled in price per barrel. Right here it says jumping from roughly $3 per barrel to over $12 a barrel. It says after the 1973 Arab oil embargo. Guys, that was just a disagreement. What's going on in the Middle East now is war. It's not a disagreement anymore. It's now drone strikes, missile strikes, taking out oil refineries, shutting down shipping lanes. Like, this is a big deal. This is the biggest thing that's ever happened since 1970, guys. You understand? This is serious. So it says went from $3 to $12 a barrel. 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's a 4x on oil. You know, gas prices back then went from 30, 40 cents a gallon to like $1 a gallon for gas. So if you're paying what, $3, $4 a gallon for gas now, be expected to pay $5 or $6 a gallon for gas. And this isn't going to be over in a month, guys. This is going to take a decade. So it says a second shock following the 1979 Iranian Revolution. Ooh, Iran. Sound familiar? Push prices towards $40 a barrel. No shock there. They might call it a shock, but us that are with eyes can see and that are studying and paying attention, we all know what's happening here. We all know what's going to happen. This led to severe inflation, guys. Fuel shortages, standing in line, global economic stagflation, people losing their jobs, stock market crash. Oh, the stock market crashed. These are times of opportunity to make millions. 1973 oil embargo, price shift. Um, and look, this lasted from 1970 all the way to the 80s, guys, and it's still going on today. Look at the news. I'm not the only one seeing this. And like I said, you can go back to Richard Nixon ending the gold standard by suspending the dollar's convertibility into gold. That was the biggest mistake in history. That killed the dollar died in 1971. You understand? So why you see the gold market dumping? My theory is that they can't lower rates. The Fed can't raise rates. They're stuck between a rock and a hard place. The the gold supply, Fort Knox or whatever, assuming they even have any gold, in their books on paper, they paid $35 an ounce for their gold. Back during like World War II, all this gold that they've been stocking up on to back up the dollar was started in like the Great Depression, and they paid $35 an ounce back when they made it illegal to have gold. You had to sell your gold at $35 an ounce to the government. So they paid $35 an ounce. That's what they paid. So just like doing your taxes, that's what they value their gold at $35 an ounce. So if they can't lower rates, they can't raise rates, and printing more money will destroy the dollar, the only thing they can do is do a gold revaluation. They can revalue their gold to the current market value of gold at $4,500, which allows them to print more money to fund another war. Because when you have inflation and the Fed is back between a rock and a hard place and the banks can't make any money off their interest and these bad things are happening because the dollar is dead, this is all they can do. They don't have any other options because the price of oil is skyrocketing. Let me show you that chart. And yeah, you could go back to price of oil skyrocketing, and there is nothing they can do about it. So, guys, if oil in 2008 was $127 a barrel, buying oil at $100 a barrel is cheap right now. We're going to $200 a barrel. And now is a great time to get into gold. Now, this is not financial advice. Don't take my word for it. But what do I mean by everyone's going to be a millionaire? Well, every house is going to probably cost about $1 million, even in the ghetto, because the dollar's not going to be worth anything anymore. Toilet paper will be worth more than the dollar. It's what, $20 for a 12 pack of toilet paper now at the store? Look at the US dollar index of all time. Like it's over, guys. And they got stable coins that could probably save it, but too many people out there don't even know anything. They're not even paying attention. They got football, baseball. Soon we're gonna have baseball going on. Keep people perfectly distracted. But yeah, guys, hope you're paying attention. Don't get fearful. Nothing to be scared of. Just look back at history. Go over the charts. Do some studying, and I don't know. What do they say? Uh, hope for the best. Prepare for the worst. Stock up on some food, some water, some gold, have a little bit of something, because sitting on cash is not going to help you. Sorry. Um, but yeah, that's the end of this video. I hope I did a good job here. Tried to sum it up in a short period of time. Hope you guys have a good day. Please like the video if you can. Show a little love. Spread a little love. And have a good day. Adios.